Okay, so this video is going to go a little bit more into what broad empiricism entails. Well, basically, broad empiricism has a long history throughout, I guess, all of Western civilization and Eastern. It basically depends not only on physical observable data, but also interior data, interior information that people can convey and share, and either publicly approve or disapprove of. And again, the important thing here with broad empiricism is that it is not simply asking, it's not a dogmatic belief system. It's actually saying, look, this is a claim, and it's verifiable. In other words, more than one person can verify it, and it usually is thrown into the community. If a spiritual teacher says something, other spiritual teachers will talk about it too. Other communities, they may agree or disagree. It's not that there is no supernatural claims in religion or spirituality in general, or in philosophy. Metaphysical castle in the sky claims, sure, there are those too. But they evolve as our understanding evolves too. So as a science, it is legitimate. Broad empiricism is actually a much healthier form of empiricism, and it can encompass narrow empiricism, because at least in modern times, broad empiricism is not really spoken about too much. Instead, we have this very reductionist tendency to say, look, it's all just what's physically observable, it's all just brainwaves, it's all just this, and of course it is that, but like, in terms of, it's counterintuitive to continually say that, because you do have to acknowledge higher levels, whether or not they're based upon the lower levels, but you have to acknowledge higher levels of development, because when you go into the brain and you look at any one neuron, this is just an example. If you look at any one neuron, you're not going to see them being self-aware by themselves individually. You don't find our consciousness in the brain in any one cell. You have to kind of step back to a higher level, a general perspective, and acknowledge, look, it's not any one neuron that's conscious. It's the whole collection of neurons somehow interact in a way, and that is implying a level. Now, a higher level of organization that we have to look at. So we don't just have clumps of mass. Like, everything is not. It's so strange, reductionism. Everything is not just a clump of mass. It's the way these clumps of mass are organized. We're not just heaps of matter, brain matter. There's complex levels of organization, which eventually consciousness arises in. So you can't just reduce it. You really can't reduce it. I mean, ultimately, you can say, look, everything is dependent on our physical brain to exist. Our feelings, our thoughts, our ideas, or even spirituality is dependent and contingent upon certain brain patterns or brain matter. That's totally true, but to say that that is the only relevant aspect to look at in sciences is reductionist and counterintuitive and actually unscientific, because if you look at consciousness, then you realize, look, there are different levels to this. There are different levels of organization. There's definitely a vertical map that we can sort of start to construct that will help us look at this sort of stuff. So yeah, okay. So obviously, reductionism in its extreme form is bad. Most people aren't as extreme about it. Some people are. Typically, those who are open critics of spirituality or whatever, I don't know, they tend to be. Not all of them, but they tend to be. And they have logical reasons for it, but I like to point out that some of these reasons are actually pretty flawed. Not that they're wrong, they're only partially true, and they fail to see this greater perspective, this developmental perspective. We sort of need to see a hierarchy, or a holarchy, more like it, of different ways of seeing the world. The macro and microscopic are a little bit different. And then all in between are different too, between the macro and the micro. So just as there are no, I mean, the brain metaphor is perfect for this. So that's something to keep in mind. The broad science, the broad empiricism requires us to sort of look into our more introspective aspects, our, the psychology and psychoanalysis and humanistic psychology, transpersonal psychology, sociology, the social sciences, the list goes on. These are valid forms of empiricism that still depend on the community to validate the claims and assertions. So it's not that these things are unscientific in any form. And my second case about empiricism is something that was raised in philosophy of mind class. And it basically says, look, we have to have levels of categorization, because if we don't, then we're going to have, take a look at the social sciences, or no, the sciences. We have biology, we have chemistry, we have psychology, but ultimately, psychology is reducible to chemistry, chemistry is reducible to physics, and so basically they're saying, look, everything is reducible to physics and mathematics, but we can't just talk through that. We have these higher levels of sciences because there are higher levels to look at, the bigger picture. So it's good to go narrow, but it's also very important to remain broad as well. So we have to have like a spectrum going out and also going in, specifics and generalities. And we have to be very careful with generalities, of course, but they can be equally scientifically valid. And so yeah, this is my video on broad sciences, and I guess I'll make another video about the three main strands of. Actually, I can do that in this video. I'll briefly go over them. The three main strands of valid knowledge. And I'm getting this from a book. It sums everything up really nicely, actually, and I recommend it for anybody who is into. Yeah, so it's a good book. This book basically just goes over integral science in general, and it's a very good roadmap for anybody who's new to Ken Wilber, or any integral scientists in general. So I recommend it. The three main strands of valid knowledge of the scientific method are: one, instrumental injunction. So if you want to know something, try it out, practice it, make a claim, validate it. Okay, the second one is data or direct apprehension. Let's see, from Eastman, empiricism. So this one sort of goes with the other one. Valid knowledge is experiential. So if you want to know something, experience it. It could be indirect or direct. It could be a meditation experience. It could be seeing something under a microscope, directly seeing, perceiving, feeling. That's a form of validation. And then 3 is communal confirmation, or rejection, which basically means show your findings to the community, see what they think. Is it true? Is it not true? Did you do something wrong? So yeah, so those are the 3 main strands. And if you think about it, this is sort of what spirituality, interior sciences, all fit into this, and they work with this, and arguably spirituality does as well. And I guess I can go into that later. But again, when I say spirituality, I don't mean mythic religions and supernatural claims. I mean the actual spiritual traditions and practices for spiritual experiences. And yeah, so if you want to make a response video, that's cool. We can go into it. We can flesh this argument out. So yeah, give me your thoughts.